Back in 2005, I became aware of a new kind of air nailing technology, 23 gauge pin nailers. Since then, these tools have revolutionized the way I put together wood and trim. I'm Steve Maxwell, contributor to more than a dozen woodworking and home building publications across North America. I want to show you why I'm so excited with 23 gauge pin nailers and why I like a particular brand. I'll show you the features, and then I'll leave it up to you to decide if this kind of machine is worth it for you. Small fastener size and more beautiful finished results are the real advantage of 23 gauge technology. Here you can see a strip of 23 gauge pins next to the closest competitor, a strip of 18 gauge nails. Now, to see what they look like in wood, let me drive a couple side by side so you can see for yourself. First, I'll drive a 23 gauge pin in this trim, and then right next to it an 18 gauge brad of the same length. Take a close look at the difference. It's huge. So how does this shake down in the real world? Well, let's take a look at this box newel I've built for an example. I've used a pin nailer to fasten all the trims here in the cap and the sides around the panels too. There's been no filling and no sanding of the holes, and as you can see, they're almost invisible. You probably wouldn't even notice them at all unless I pointed them out to you. The biggest concern with 23 gauge pins before you experience them is strength. I mean, after all, how well can a headless fastener the size of a sewing pin actually hold? Well, let me show you. This is a separate piece of wood, and I'm going to fire in 2 pins, and with nothing more than this, pick up 30 pounds of weight without those pins pulling out at all. A while back, I was part of a 3-tester crew that looked at pin nailers in our own workshops for an article in a national woodworking magazine. 2 of us 3 testers preferred the Grex P650L simply because it works so well and it has such great features, starting with the range of pin length it can shoot. This model propels pins everywhere from ½ an inch long all the way up to 2 inches long, and it can even drive those extra long fasteners all the way into hardwood. So when do 2-inch long pins make sense? Well, for fastening extra thick trim, for instance, but also when you want to fasten door and window casings through drywall to an underlying wall frame. Here I've got a doorway opening. I've left off the jamb to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to use the pin nailer to invisibly fasten this trim in place in a way that needs no filling or sanding. Another reason why I like the P650L so much is the auto lockout feature on the magazine. Here's how it works. The nailer continues firing until you get down to about the last 6 pins, and then it stops. This feature prevents dry firing. Now, if you happen to be up on a ladder or in an inconvenient place and you have just a couple more pins to fire until the job is done, on the side there's an override feature. If you press and hold that, you can fire the last 6 pins and then be done. One of my favorite uses for 23 gauge pins is for what I call instant clamping. Here's what I mean. Let's say you've got some stacked trim you're dealing with, and you want to hold the parts together as solidly as possible with minimal fasteners showing. Well, what you do is you take the trim and you apply a very small amount of glue to the back. It doesn't take much to do the job. And then you put the parts together. Don't move them around because you don't want any squeeze out to show. And then you grab your pin nailer. In situations where you need maximum joint strength and you don't want to use glue, then simply drive the pin nails in at opposing angles. By toenailing them in like this, you increase the joint strength. And since the 23 gauge pins leave such a small hole, it doesn't matter that they go into the wood at an angle. One of my very favorite uses for pin nails is when I'm gluing multiple layers of wood together on their face. The challenge, of course, is keeping everything in alignment when there's glue lubricating the pieces and they're under clamping pressure. The tendency is for the parts to creep out of alignment, and you probably won't even discover it until it's too late. So, I apply glue as normal. Then I align the parts perfectly. Then I shoot a couple of extra long pins into the assembly. Doesn't take many. And clamp it up. Now the pins won't draw these parts together, but they will stop them from moving out of alignment while your clamps squish everything tight and make for a really good glue joint. Grex pinners do cost a bit more than other models, but you get more tool too. Overall weight and balance of this model is excellent. It's very easy to hold. And unlike a growing number of other air nailers on the market, Grex pinners have no plastic internal parts whatsoever. Then there's the rear-mounted muffled exhaust port. It keeps the tool noise down, and it directs the blast of exhaust air out the back, away from your face and away from your work. Then there's the step-shaped magazine. It lets you get the tool into tighter locations, and the extra large viewing window makes it easy to keep your eye on the nail supply you've got in the gun. There's also a rear-mounted holder for securing a spare plastic tip. This protects your work. And it's also got 4 guidelines, one on each face, so you know exactly where the pin is going to be driven. Next to that spare nose piece is an Allen key, which is used to open up the nose guide in the unlikely event there's a jam. I say unlikely because the driver blade on this tool is machined to particularly tight tolerances, so there's no room for a pin to get jammed in beside it. On the back end, there's also a belt hook for hands-free climbing up ladders or scaffolding, and the magazine has spring-loaded pins that allow for adjustment-free installation of different pin lengths. These fingers automatically adjust for up to 13 different lengths of pins, so you don't have to tweak anything. If price is an issue, you might want to consider the Grex P635 or P645. They shoot 1 3/8 or 1 3/4 inch pins, respectively. They cost a little bit less than the P650L that you see here, but they have the same overall quality and the same features except for the auto lockout. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour of 23 gauge technology. I know pin nailers have improved the speed and quality of my own work, and they can do the same for you too.